have been talking this week about the first time trap, which is this week. I think it's actually only been one day. Yesterday, we talked about the first time trap, which is abdicating your identity. And I explained what that is, and essentially it's letting your self-talk, what you say to yourself in your brain, letting that run on autopilot, letting your most habitual, your most default thinking, your unquestioned, your unintentional thinking run the show. And I've talked about all the ways that that slows you down, that you end up wasting your time. And so you can go listen to that to hear about it in more detail. Today, I'm going to talk about how to combat this time trap of abdicating your identity. And I'm going to start by saying the things that it is imperative that you stop believing if you want to get out of this time trap. Firstly, you need to stop believing that if this is what you believe, I can't control my thoughts. They just happen to me. I don't have a say over them. They just happen too quickly. It's not that important. It doesn't really matter. It's really my actions that I need to pay attention to. Those thoughts are going to, it's going to keep you feeling powerless and defeated, and like your mismanaged mind is just in charge rather than you being in charge. So you're either going to feel powerless or you'll feel complacent that, doesn't really matter. And neither of those are going to get you to engage with this battle. It's going to get you to neglect it, to deprioritize it, to put it off for later, and to not see it as important instead of the most important thing. Every battle is first won or lost in the mind. Your actions are important, 100% yes, but the root of all actions is in your thoughts first. They come first. The actions are just the fruit. So if we want to change the actions, we've got to hack it out at the root, not the fruit. So, and also I think it's important to consider that our intellect and our will are how we are made in God's image. That those faculties of our soul, it's less about what we look like physically, although there are important things there, theology of the body, all of the things, but our intellect and our will, that is how we, having the agency to choose what we think about, the words that we put in our mind, the sentences that we focus on, the words are made flesh. They become incarnate in our lives. And so that really matters. That impacts everybody around us. It impacts our life tangibly and concretely, the lives of other people, the entire world and creation. This is not a small thing. And yeah, so enough to say about that. And then the way I like to think about it is, I always say I have a self-care training, which you can sign up for at the link in my bio if you're interested. But on the first day, I say that the most fundamental form of self-care is your self-talk. Because that determines whether you feel at home in yourself. It doesn't matter how many baths or massages you go for, or if you're exercising every day or praying every day, doing all of these things that are important, arguably, but it doesn't matter how much of all of that you're doing if you don't feel at home in yourself and you walk around saying terrible things to yourself, living in an identity that is not who God says you are, not speaking life over yourself, like not saying things to yourself that are life-giving, and that is going to impact the decisions that you make for how you take care of yourself as well. So what you tell yourself impacts the actions you take in terms of self-care, but it's also just like, do you treat yourself with care? Do you have care for yourself as a daughter of God? And so where we want to be heading towards is deciding, I'm just not available to tell myself anything that God does not say about me. I'm going to have a relationship with myself that is grounded in trust. I trust myself to follow through. I trust myself to steward my time well and to make great decisions, to listen to the Holy Spirit. I trust God to tell me everything that I need to know. I trust that His plans are the best. I trust that I have plenty of time. I trust that I'm going to value my time, that I respect my time, that we work well together. I believe that I have a valuable contribution to make that no one else can make, and that I am an irreplaceable asset to God in His kingdom, to other people, in my family, in my community, and my needs matter. Like, if those are the things that you are like, if you are not habitually telling yourself those things most of the time, imagine what would be different if you were. Just really contemplate that for a second, how life-giving that would be and what would be different about the actions that you take. What would be different about the way that you dream about possibilities and engage with desires and pray and talk to God about those dreams? What would be different about how much you anticipated prayer, what your experience of prayer would be? What would be different about the plans that you make and your ability to follow through, how focused you are, and how bold of decisions you would make, how quickly you would make the decisions, just all of the things. Just turning the page. Okay. So everything that I've just been talking about, like, this is the skill that you want to cultivate. It's the skill of forging your identity on purpose. The skill of just taking responsibility for the sentences that you choose in your mind. What programs, if my brain is a supercomputer and the programs that I run determine the results that I get, what programs am I going to run? What do I want the most habitual programs to be? And so some of the tools that I teach to grow in this area of managing your mind, I teach the reason cycle, which is a way of thinking about your thinking, really fully engaging your intellect and your will, and saying, like, is this thought good? Is it true? Just like helping you to discern, is this God's voice or the enemy's? And just at the end of the day, is this thought even useful? Even if I could argue that it's true, is it useful? Does it bring me life? Does it lead me where I want to go? And then also part of this is the ability to process emotions, like the ability to navigate difficult, heavy, negative emotions, or when we're just feeling stuck. Like, it's not about never feeling negative, but it's how quickly can I notice that I'm feeling stuck, feeling not good, not taking the action I want to take. How quickly can I notice that and move through it, navigate it to get to the other side and kind of get back on track, like reroute. If we're committed to the destination and I notice that I'm driving, like I've taken a wrong turn with the GPS, how quickly can I notice that and just, with as little drama as possible, reroute and get back on track. And It's also, part of this is also learning the skill of not waiting for evidence to tell ourselves a powerful story about ourselves. So what we often do... One second. Okay, but we can't do it now. Can you wait 5 minutes? I won't give them to you if you can wait. Okay? But if you can wait 5 minutes, then I can do it. All right? Do you want to do quiet time toys?
No. I want to do craft.
I'm not doing craft. No way. I'm on a video, Charlotte. Come on.
I don't know. I don't want to do it in the bedroom.
My apologies. It has been such a frustrating few days. Okay. Where was I? That's right. So a lot of the time what we do is we're like, oh, I have all of this evidence that I am inconsistent or I don't follow through. And so I can't believe that I'm going to follow through. And we let that determine our identity and what we tell ourselves. And so, but what if it's available to you to just decide everything that's happened in the past, totally irrelevant. There's just who I'm deciding to be right now in this moment. And so I don't have to tell myself that I am great at follow through. You can just tell yourself, I'm just deciding to follow through right now. What would be different if that was available to you? And what comes to mind is St. Paul, who said, I forget what lies behind and I'm like reaching forward to what lies ahead. That is really like what we have to do. We have to forget what lies behind, all of the reasons that we can't do things, and just focus on where we're going, the saint that we're becoming, and live into that. And there's a quote that goes around that there is no saint without a past and no sinner without a future. And I want to add to that because I think that the way that the saint like moves into, like you go from the sinner to the saint, from living in that past to living in that future by shifting your focus. So the saint, let me turn that around. The saint is the person who was formerly the sinner, and they at some point started looking less frequently to their past and more frequently to their future. Because what we focus on is what we create. So when you keep focusing on your past, that's what you keep recreating. You keep running that program in your supercomputer brain. And so the saint is just a sinner who decided to stop focusing on their past, or to like focus less on it and focus more on their future, which is ultimately heaven. And so that is what they created. That is what they stepped into. They became a saint. And I think that's just really fascinating to contemplate. So the more that we can do that, and the quicker we can do that, the quicker we become who God made us to be. What else I want to say? The other thing that I think is really cool, so each of the 4 fundamentals of Catholic time mastery so the first one that we're talking about right now, forging identity, they each correspond with one of the 4 cardinal virtues. So when you grow in that skill, when you practice that skill, you are cultivating one of the 4 cardinal virtues. So the virtue for forging your identity is justice. So justice is giving each what they are due, and it is, I think, a matter of justice to like give yourself the truth, speak the truth about yourself, think the truth about yourself, think the truth about God. Like, he is entitled to only true things being said or thought about him. Likewise, like, because of who he says we are, like when we tell ourselves these lies, these limiting beliefs, when we make our identity, like when we define it by our weaknesses, by our failings, we're disagreeing with God, essentially, because he has said that we are somebody, that we are his beloved, that we are redeemed. And anything other than that, when we make that be who we are disagreeing with him. Who are we to disagree with God when you put it that way? So, in this way, forging your identity on purpose, not abdicating your identity, not like taking ownership and responsibility over what is happening in your head and your heart, that is a matter of justice. And so if no, I won't talk about that. So if this struck a chord with you, if it lit a fire in your belly and you're like, oh my goodness, I want to take this seriously because I don't trust myself, I don't feel at home in myself, and I want that, and I avoid doing what I feel called to do, and I put things off because I don't trust myself to follow through, like, you do not have to keep living in that state. And I don't think anybody should have to not feel at home in themselves, feel perpetually frustrated at their inability to do the things that they want to do. And so let's get you out of that. Send me a DM and we will set up a call to talk through all of the details. At the very least, you'll walk away with a clearer idea of what are the things that you're saying to yourself that are not life-giving, and have more awareness. And awareness is authority. The more awareness that you have of what's happening in there, the more agency and freedom you have to go, oh, that's interesting. Do I want to think that? And then potentially choose something different. And like the next days, the next weeks, the next months, years, those are going to pass. They're either going to pass anyway, or your life is going to end and you're going to meet your maker. So why would you want to put off making the most of every single day? Why would you want to wait to steward your time to the very best of your ability and to speak life over yourself when it impacts every moment of every single day? And like what happens when you start to do this is, firstly, so you grow in awareness, as I mentioned, you start to make different decisions, you learn to let go of the lies that you've been telling yourself, and it's like you're carrying around a backpack of heavy rocks, and it's like you just put it down, or you take out some of the rocks and you take out more and more and more, and you feel lighter and clearer, and more free. You have more energy, which then impacts the whole way that you show up throughout the entire day. You're able to be more focused and get things done faster, make better and faster decisions, and you just you have that feeling of, it's just such a powerful feeling to know no matter what emotion comes, like I can handle it. I know I can move through it. I know how to be kind to myself in it. I know how to encounter the Lord in it. Like it's just so powerful and calming and freeing. So those are some of the things that are available to you. And ultimately, it just drastically reduces the time between hearing God call you to something and it being like, not just you answering the call, but it just being done. Like you just go from, instead of it taking this long to go from A to B, we just like really shrink it down to this much. And we just collapse all the timelines for where it is that you want to be going and what you think is possible. So if that sounds exciting to you, let's talk. Send me a DM and we'll get the ball rolling and make it happen. And I will see you soon to talk about the second time trap, which is burying your desires. Stay tuned. God bless.